Rain hit the windscreen like thrown gravel. Walter Mensah tightened both hands on the steering wheel and breathed through the ache in his chest. Slow, controlled, the way the cardiology nurse had taught him years ago. Not for himself, for the little boy in the passenger seat. Micah, 7. Asleep with his mouth open, hoodie damp at the shoulders, a school project poster tube wedged between his trainers. Walter pulled into the private entrance of St. Briarwood Medical, the kind of hospital that smelled like money even from the car park. Glass, steel, soft lighting, valet umbrellas. He checked the letter again, thumb trembling slightly. Pre-authorization approved. Procedure scheduled. Arrive 6:15 a.m. He'd done everything right, and still, he felt like he was about to be told he did not belong. He killed the engine, sat for a second, and listened to the rain. Then he whispered, "All right, Walt, one step." He nudged Micah awake. "Come on, champ, we're early. We'll get you hot chocolate from the cafe after." Micah blinked, smiled, then frowned at Walter's breathing. "You okay, Granddad?" "I'm good," Walter lied gently. "Just a bit tight. That's why we're here." They walked in together. Walter in his old pea coat, the one he wore to church. Micah clutching the poster tube like it was a weapon. The lobby was bright, white, immaculate. Christmas trees still up, even though it was late January. Music, designed to calm rich people. A white woman at the front desk looked up, smile, already fading. Her badge read, Kimberly Sloan, patient access. Her eyes dropped to Walter's coat, to Micah's trainers, to the damp in their hems. Then back to Walter's face, like she'd already decided something. "Can I help you?" she asked. Not warm, not cruel, just flat. Walter placed the letter down carefully.
Yes,
ma'am. Walter Mensah, pre-op for cardiology. I have a scheduled procedure. Kimberly clicked her mouse. Her acrylic nails tapped the desk like impatience. She squinted. Mensah, Mensah. Walter kept his voice gentle. Mensah, like it's written. She looked up at him again. Is this your grandson? Yes. Kimberly sighed, leaned closer to her screen, then leaned back like she'd found what she wanted. HM, it says here, your insurance is pending. Walter's throat tightened. No, it isn't. I have approval. It's right there. Kimberly didn't pick up the letter. She didn't even glance at it. Our system says pending. Walter swallowed. It can't be. I was called yesterday. They confirmed. Kimberly stood up slowly, as if standing made her more correct. Sir, if it's pending, we can't proceed. You'll need to contact your provider. Walter stared at her, then at the letter, then at Micah, whose small face had gone serious. Walter lowered his voice. Ma'am, I'm having a stent placed. This isn't a dentist appointment. I'm having symptoms right now. Kimberly's eyes flicked to a security guard near the doors, then back to Walter. Sir, if you're having symptoms, you should go to the emergency room entrance, not here. Walter frowned. This is where the letter says. Kimberly raised her eyebrows. Maybe. The letter is old. Walter's patience was thinning, not from anger, but from fear. He pushed the letter forward. Please, just read it. Kimberly finally picked it up, held it between two fingers, like it was slightly dirty, and scanned it. Then she pursed her lips, turned the paper around, and pointed at a line. This says pre-authorization. That does not mean approved. Walter blinked. It says approved. Kimberly's smile came back, small and sharp. It says approved by your provider, not approved by us. Walter's chest tightened again, deeper. He looked past her at the corridor, leading to cardiology, just a few meters away. I'm not asking for charity, he said quietly. I'm asking you to do your job. Kimberly's face hardened. Excuse me? Micah stepped closer to Walter, protective, without even knowing it. Kimberly waved a hand. Security. The guard approached, tall, broad, white, with that board authority some people wear like a uniform, even when they're not in charge, his badge said. Officer Dane Baxter, what's the problem? Baxter asked. Eyes already on Walter's hands. Kimberly pointed at Walter like he was a spill. He's causing a scene. He's refusing to leave. Walter's voice remained calm. I am not causing a scene. I have a scheduled procedure. I'm trying to check in. Baxter stepped closer. Too close, sir. You need to step away from the desk. Walter's jaw tightened. I'm not doing anything wrong. Baxter looked down at Micah. And you brought a kid in here too. Walter's eyes flashed. He's my grandson. Baxter's tone changed. That little change people do when they think nobody will challenge it. Look, man, Baxter said. This place isn't a shelter. Walter froze. Kimberly's mouth twitched like she approved. Micah's eyes widened, confusion and humiliation mixing together. Walter felt heat rise up his neck, not because he was shocked, because he'd heard versions of that line his whole life. Just different. Buildings, different uniforms. Same message. Baxter nodded towards the door. Come on, let's go. Walter's chest clenched again. He steadied himself on the desk edge, sir. Don't touch the desk, Baxter barked. Walter turned slowly. I'm not leaving. Kimberly crossed her arms. Then, you'll be escorted out. Micah whispered Granddad. Walter looked down at his grandson and made a decision. Not today. Not in front of the boy. He took one step back, lifted his hands to show he wasn't a threat. Fine, he said, but I'm calling my advocate, and I'm filing a complaint. Baxter smirked. File whatever you want. As Baxter guided them toward the entrance, Walter noticed something. Across the lobby, near the cafe, a woman in simple scrubs was mopping near a wet floor sign. Hair tucked under a cap, no jewelry, no badge visible, just a worker doing a job, but she'd been watching the whole time. And when Walter's eyes met hers, her face didn't show pity. It showed recognition, like she'd seen this before, and didn't plan to let it stand. Walter and Micah were pushed back out into the rain. The automatic doors hissed shut behind them, and the lobby returned to its soft music, as if nothing happened. Walter's hands shook as he buckled Micah in the car. Micah's voice was small. Did we do something bad? Walter swallowed hard. No, champ. We didn't. Micah stared at the hospital doors. Then why did they talk to you like that? Walter felt the question hit him, like a punch. He could give the truth, or he could give the child-safe version. So he gave the truth, gently, because some people see our skin before they see our heart. Micah looked down. That's stupid. Walter laughed once, without humor. Walter sat in the driver's seat, breathing shallowly, hand pressing his chest. He glanced at his phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Then a voicemail. He hit play. A man's voice. Crisp. Official, Mr. Mensah. This is the pension administrator for North County Trades Union. We need to discuss an urgent matter. Your pension has been flagged for review due to an irregularity. Please call back immediately. Walter stared at the screen. Pension flagged. Hospital denied. And he had a letter from the bank on the passenger seat to unopened, threatening foreclosure if he didn't resolve a tax lien discrepancy within 10 days. It was as if 3 separate hands were squeezing his life at once. Walter looked at Micah, then back at the hospital, and he made another decision. Not today. He started the car and drove straight to the one person he trusted to tell him what was really going on. His granddaughter, Amaya Mensah, because Amaya was 28, sharp as broken glass, and worked as an investigative producer for the local news. And she didn't let things go. After the hook, a quick check-in for you listening. If you were Walter, would you go quiet to protect your grandson? Or would you make noise right there in the lobby? Drop one word in the comments. Quiet or loud. And if you believe stories like this deserve dignity, fairness, and real accountability, hit like and subscribe, because we do not let wrongdoing hide behind uniforms. Now back to Walter. Amaya lived 10 minutes away, in a small flat above a barber shop that always smelled like clippers and peppermint oil. When Walter walked in, Micah, trailing behind. Amaya knew something was wrong instantly. Granddad, why are you here? You're meant to be at the hospital. Walter sat slowly, wincing. Amaya rushed to him. Chest. It's manageable, he said. They turned me away. Amaya blinked, stunned. What do you mean? Turned you away? You had approval. Walter handed her the letter, then told her. Everything. The desk, Kimberly. Security, the shelter comment. Amaya's face darkened with each word. Micah quietly put his poster tube in the corner, like he didn't want it to take up space. Amaya crouched to his level. Micah, can you do me a favor? Go wash your hands and pick a cartoon. Yeah. Micah nodded and disappeared into the bedroom. The moment he was out of earshot, Amaya's voice sharpened. Who was the security guard? Walter exhaled. Dane Baxter. Amaya's eyes narrowed. I know that name. Walter frowned. From where? Amaya stood, crossed to her laptop, and typed. Within seconds, she turned the screen. A local article about Officer Baxter being commended for handling a trespass incident at St. Briarwood. Below it, a photo, Baxter, smiling, standing next to a man in a suit. The man's name was Councilman Royce Harlan. Amaya clicked again. Another article about Harlan's healthcare reform plan, gaining support from St. Briarwood leadership. And another about the North County Trades Pension Fund being placed under audit after an anonymous tip. Amaya leaned back, slowly. Granddad, she said, careful now. These aren't random problems. Walter's chest tightened. What are you saying? He asked. Amaya's voice lowered. I'm saying, someone's pulling strings. Walter stared at her. Why? Amaya looked at him, like the answer was obvious. Because you're Walter Mensah, she said, the man who never stops asking questions. Walter's jaw clenched. He thought of the union meetings, the complaints, the times he'd refused to sign off on shady numbers, the time he'd told the pension board he wanted to see the books. He thought of the new faces who'd come in after retirement, smiling too much, promising efficiency. Amaya pointed at the unopened bank letter on the table. Open that. Walter hesitated, then tore it. His eyes scanned, then widened. Tax lien discrepancy, he read aloud. Property, subject to expedited foreclosure process. Sale date scheduled. Amaya whispered. They're trying to take Nana's house. That house was not just a house. It was where Amaya's grandmother had braided hair on Sunday evenings, where Walter had taught his daughters to dance in the kitchen, where Micah had learned to ride a bike in the driveway. Walter's voice came out rough. It's been paid off for years. Amaya nodded, which means someone is lying. Walter's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. He answered. This is Mr. Mensah. A different voice this time. Smooth, pleasant, dangerous. Mr. Mensah, this is Gerald Pike with North County Pension Administration. I'm calling to inform you that due to irregularities, your pension payments will be temporarily suspended. Walter went cold. That's my income, Walter said. You can't suspend it. Pike's tone stayed friendly. I'm afraid we can, until the investigation is complete. Walter's breathing quickened. Amaya held up her hand, silently mouthing, speaker. Walter put it on speaker. Mr. Pike, Walter said slowly, what irregularities? There was a pause. Then Pike chuckled lightly. We're still gathering information, but it seems your file has discrepancies regarding your years of service. Walter's eyes widened. I did 32 years. Records indicate possibly less. Amaya cut in, calm and lethal. Hi, Gerald. This call is being recorded. State your full name, job title, and the legal basis for pension suspension. Silence. Then, a forced laugh. Who is this? Amaya leaned closer to the phone. A journalist. Now, answer. Pike's tone hardened. This matter is private. Amaya smiled without warmth. So is theft. Pike spoke again. Mr. Mensah, I'd advise you to cooperate. Stress isn't good for your condition. Walter's stomach dropped. Amaya's face changed. That wasn't a normal comment. That was a threat, dressed as concern. Amaya grabbed her. Keys, Granddad, she said. We're going back to that hospital. Not for a fight. For facts. Walter frowned. They'll block us again. Amaya shook her head. No. This time we walk in with a camera. Walter hesitated. Micah appeared in the doorway. Cartoon music behind him. Are we going back? Micah asked. Walter looked at his grandson, then at Amaya, and he nodded. We're going back, he said, but we do it smart. When they returned to St. Briarwood, the rain had eased into a mist. Amaya had her phone mounted in her hand, like a badge. Walter walked slower, breathing tight. Micah held Walter's coat. They stepped into the lobby. Kimberly looked up, and her face tightened immediately. Baxter, seeing them, pushed off the wall like he'd been waiting for this moment. Didn't I escort you out already? Baxter said, loud enough for people to hear. Amaya smiled politely. Yes, you did. And now, I'm documenting why. Kimberly's eyes flashed. You can't record in here. Amaya's voice stayed calm. This is a public lobby, and my grandfather has been denied care. If you'd like to call your legal department, please do. Baxter stepped forward. Turn it off. Amaya didn't move. No. Baxter's eyes flicked to Walter. Then he did it again. That shift, that assumption, sir, Baxter said. You need to control your girl. The word landed like a slap. Amaya's smile vanished. Walter's voice came out low. Don't speak to her like that. Baxter leaned in. What? You gonna file another complaint? Walter steadied himself. Then a voice behind them, quiet but firm, cut through the lobby like a blade. Officer Baxter. Everyone turned. The woman from earlier stepped forward. No mop now, no cap. Her hair was neatly pulled back, and she wore a tailored blazer over a plain blouse. A badge hung from her neck. It read, Dr. Naomi Kingsley, CEO. Kimberly went pale. Baxter's posture snapped into something closer to obedience. Dr. Kingsley, Baxter said quickly, this man is trespassing. Dr. Kingsley looked at Walter, then at Micah, then at Amaya's phone. Then she looked at Kimberly. Is that true? Kingsley asked. Kimberly stammered. He was disruptive. Dr. Kingsley's eyes narrowed. Disruptive? How? Kimberly glanced at Baxter like he was meant to save her. Baxter jumped in. He refused to leave the desk. We have protocols. Dr. Kingsley turned to Walter. Mr. Mensah, correct? Walter blinked. Yes. Dr. Kingsley's voice softened. Do you have your scheduling letter? Walter handed it to her. She read it carefully. Then her jaw tightened. This is approved, she said plainly. Kimberly swallowed. Our system. Dr. Kingsley didn't look at her. Your system can be wrong. People cannot. She handed the letter back to Walter and turned to Baxter. Officer Baxter, you said he was trespassing. Then explain why patient access never contacted my office about a denied cardiac procedure. Baxter's mouth opened, closed. Kimberly's voice cracked. We didn't deny it. We just... Dr. Kingsley's eyes finally landed on Kimberly. Cold and precise. You just what? Kimberly whispered. It was pending. Dr. Kingsley nodded slowly. Interesting. Then she looked at Amaya. Are you filming? Kingsley asked. Amaya held her phone steady. Yes. Dr. Kingsley nodded once. Good. Keep filming. Kimberly's face dropped. Dr. Kingsley turned back to Walter. Mr. Mensah, I apologize. You are checking in right now, and your grandson is getting that hot chocolate. Mika's eyes widened. Really? Dr. Kingsley smiled at him. Really? Walter's throat tightened for a second. He didn't know what to do with kindness after humiliation, he managed. Thank you. Dr. Kingsley's smile faded. Then she leaned in, quietly, so only Walter and Amaya could hear. And I need to speak with you both privately, she said, because I think this is bigger than the front desk. In a glass conference room upstairs, the hospital looked different. Less like calm, more like power. Dr. Kingsley sat across from Walter and Amaya, hands folded, composed. I became CEO 3 weeks ago, she said. I've been doing quiet walkthroughs, dressed as staff, to see what leadership refuses to see. Amaya blinked. You were the cleaner. Dr. Kingsley nodded. I was invisible by design. Walter swallowed. You saw what happened. I did, she said. And I also saw something else. She slid a file across the table. Walter opened it. Inside were printouts, emails, payment authorizations, notes. Dr. Kingsley tapped the top page. "Your procedure was approved," she said. "Then, someone manually flagged your account, after hours, and moved it into pending. That's not an accident. That's a person." Amaya's eyes narrowed. Phew. Dr. Kingsley held Amaya's gaze. The override came from a senior administrator, someone with access. Walter's heart pounded. Dr. Kingsley continued, "I asked our IT team to pull a wider report. Over the past 6 months, a pattern emerges. Certain patients, mostly black, mostly older, mostly using pension-based insurance plans, are being delayed, rerouted, or quietly denied." Amaya whispered, "That's deadly." Dr. Kingsley nodded. "Yes." Walter's hands shook. "Why?" Dr. Kingsley paused, then said carefully, "Because if your care is delayed, outcomes worsen. If outcomes worsen, costs increase. If costs increase, the insurer is blamed. If the insurer is blamed, contracts shift." Amaya leaned forward. "Who benefits?" Dr. Kingsley slid another page over. A list of private contractors. One name circled. Harlan Health Strategies. Amaya's face went tight. "Councilman Royce Harlan." Dr. Kingsley nodded. "He's been pushing a reform bill. He's also been quietly steering hospital partnerships." Walter felt the room spin slightly. Property, pension, healthcare, all tied to one name. Dr. Kingsley delivered the first twist with a calm that felt like thunder. "Mr. Mensah," she said, "I know who you are." Walter blinked. "I'm nobody." Dr. Kingsley shook her head. "You're not nobody. You're the former compliance lead who raised concerns about the North County Trades Pension Fund 2 years ago. The complaints that were lost. The meeting where you demanded an independent audit." Walter's jaw tightened. Dr. Kingsley continued, "Someone is trying to weaken you, financially and physically, before you can speak again." Amaya looked at her grandfather with shock. "Granddad, you never told me it was that serious." Walter's voice was quiet. "I didn't want you carrying it." Dr. Kingsley leaned in, and here is the second twist. She said she slid one final document across a deed. Walter stared, confused. Dr. Kingsley spoke softly. "Your house, the one they're threatening, it sits on land that was part of an old church trust. A trust that never dissolved properly, which means foreclosure is not straightforward." Amaya's brows lifted. "So they can't just take it?" Dr. Kingsley nodded. "Not legally, unless they force you to miss deadlines and accept settlements." Walter's hands clenched. He realized they weren't trying to win in court. They were trying to exhaust him until he gave up. Dr. Kingsley stood. "I can guarantee your procedure happens," she said, "but I need something from you." Walter looked up. "What?" Dr. Kingsley's gaze was steady. "I need you to testify," she said. "Not just about your pension, about the pattern, about what you've seen." Walter hesitated. He thought of Micah. He thought of Amaya. He thought of the tightness in his chest. Then he thought of all the older black men and women who did not have an Amaya, did not have a Dr. Kingsley, did not have a voice in a glass conference room. Walter nodded. "I'll testify," he said, "but we do it right." Amaya smiled, fierce. "We do it loud." Walter exhaled, then finally said the words he'd been afraid to admit. "I think they're going to come for me next." Dr. Kingsley's face didn't change. "Let them," she said, "because I'm already 2 steps ahead." Now, another check-in for you listening. Have you ever watched someone get treated unfairly in public and felt your body freeze, like you wanted to help, but didn't know how? Type, "I've seen it," if you know that feeling, and tell me what you wish you could have said. The court hearing arrived. Councilman Royce Harlan sat in the front row, like he owned the room. He was so ExpensiveSuit.com. Smile. Kimberly Sloan was there too, suddenly nervous, suddenly small. Officer Baxter stood with arms folded, chin lifted. Walter sat at the plaintiff's table in his best suit. Amaya beside him, Micah in the back row with coloring pencils. Dr. Kingsley sat quietly near the back. watching, unreadable. The judge entered. Judge Evelyn Markham, stern, careful. The hospital's lawyer stood and spoke smoothly about misunderstandings and policy adherence. Then the pension administrator's lawyer argued that Walter's service years were unclear due to lost records. Then the bank's representative claimed the tax lien was valid and foreclosure was a legal necessity. 3 knives, 1 man. Walter stood to testify. He gripped the edge of the podium. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. He told the truth. About the lobby, about the shelter, comment, about the delayed care, about the pension phone call that sounded like a threat. The defense lawyers smirked. Then one of them asked the question they thought would break him. Mr. Mensah, isn't it true that you've always been confrontational with management? Walter paused. He could deny it, but Walter knew something now. They wanted him to be ashamed of advocating for himself. So he answered, plainly, double quotes, yes. I confront wrongdoing. The courtroom murmured. The lawyer smiled like he'd caught something. And isn't it also true that you have a personal vendetta against Councilman Harlan? Walter turned, looked directly at Harlan. No, I don't have a vendetta. I have evidence. The lawyer's smile faltered. Judge Markham leaned forward. Evidence. Amaya stood. Your Honor, we have recordings, emails, and an IT audit from St. Briarwood showing manual interference with patient approvals. The defense objected. Judge Markham allowed it. Amaya played the audio from Gerald Pike's call. Stress isn't good for your condition. It landed differently in court. It sounded like what it was. A warning. Jaw tightened. Then Dr. Kingsley stood, calm. Your Honor, I'd like to submit our internal report. The defense tried to block it. Judge Markham's voice was firm. I will see it. Kimberly Sloan started sweating. Officer Baxter shifted. Then Micah tugged Amaya's sleeve. He whispered something. Amaya looked confused. Then her face changed. She stood again. Your Honor, my nephew just reminded me of something we overlooked. The judge frowned. Go on. Amaya turned to the defense. Officer Baxter, on the day you escorted my grandfather out, you said this place isn't a shelter. Baxter shrugged. I did my job. Amaya nodded. And you're proud of that? Baxter smirked. Yes. Amaya turned her phone screen toward the judge. Micah, tell the court what you saw that day. The courtroom went silent. Micah stood, small voice, trembling but clear. I saw the man in the suit. Give the security man a little paper, Micah said, pointing. Everyone looked. Micah pointed again. The man in the suit gave him a paper, and then the security man smiled. Harlan's face went still. Amaya's voice stayed calm, almost gentle. Your Honor, the child is describing a cash envelope or a card exchange. We checked the lobby cameras. The defense jumped up, furious. Judge Markham raised a hand. Do you have footage? Dr. Kingsley answered. Yes, and it gets worse. She played the clip. The video was grainy, but clear enough. Harlan, in the lobby, early that morning. Baxter approached. Harlan handed him something discreet. Baxter nodded. Then Baxter turned and looked directly at the front desk, and only then did Kimberly pull up Walter's file. Only then did the pending status appear. The court erupted. The judge banged the gavel. Royce Harlan stood, face tight with anger. This is outrageous. This is a misunderstanding. Judge Markham stared at him. Councilman, sit down. Harlan didn't. He tried to leave. 2 bailiffs moved. Dr. Kingsley's voice cut through the chaos. Quiet, but lethal. Don't. Everyone turned. Dr. Kingsley held up one more document. A week before I took over, someone tried to wipe the audit logs. They failed. We traced the attempt. She looked straight at Harlan. It came from an IP address, registered to Harlan Health Strategies. The room went dead. Harlan's face drained. Judge Markham spoke slowly. Councilman Royce Harlan, you are now subject to immediate investigation for witness tampering, obstruction, and potential conspiracy. Amaya turned to Walter. Walter's eyes were wet. Not from victory, from relief. Because for once, the truth was not being politely ignored. The judge ordered an injunction. Walter's pension payments were reinstated, pending full audit. The foreclosure was halted. The tax lien flagged as fraudulent. Seabree Darwood launched a formal investigation and terminated Kimberly Sloan, pending review. Officer Baxter was suspended. Councilman Harlan was escorted out, not in handcuffs yet, but with his power leaking out of him like air from a punctured tire. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Amaya's footage went national. Not because it was shocking, because it was familiar. Walter stood on the courthouse steps with Micah and Amaya. Dr. Kingsley stepped beside him, calm, composed. She didn't take the spotlight, she just stood there, presence like a shield. Micah looked up at Walter. "Granddad, are we still good people?" Walter knelt, held Micah's small shoulders. "Yes, we're good people." Micah's eyes searched his, even when they were mean. Walter nodded. Especially then, Micah thought. "So, what do we do now?" Walter looked at Amaya, then at Dr. Kingsley, then at the cameras, and he answered with a quiet strength. "We tell the truth," Walter said, "and we don't let them make us small." That night, Walter sat in his living room, the house they tried to steal. The rain had stopped. Micah slept upstairs. Amaya edited footage at the kitchen table, eyes bright with purpose. Walter held a cup of tea. Pans, steady now. The phone buzzed. A blocked number. He watched it. Ring. Then he declined it. He didn't look afraid anymore, because now he understood the real power shift. They tried to isolate him, and instead they connected him to witnesses, to truth, to community. Walter looked at the family photos on the wall, and he whispered, like a promise, "Not on my watch." If you were Walter, would you press for maximum charges and public accountability? Or would you accept a quiet settlement to protect your peace? Comment, charges, or peace, and tell me why.